Hello, everyone. Today we are going to do the second part of our learning vocabulary in context. Why do we want to learn it in context? Because if we learn it in context, we are more likely to remember it. Trying to learn lots and lots of vocabulary is an absolute waste of time unless you're learning how to use the vocabulary and the vocabulary is of interest to you, because otherwise you're going to forget it. Let me tell you a short story and to emphasize what I mean. When I came to Thailand here many years ago, I came as an engineer working for a company that employed me as general manager on an engineering site to work on new refineries that were being built here in Thailand. I was running a company with a lot of engineers that were designing and installing things, and I was the boss. And I couldn't speak a word of Thai. And in fact, all of the employees at that time couldn't speak any or virtually any English. So the way around it, they gave me a personal assistant, a young lady straight from university that had a good basis of English. The problem was that I was wanting to speak engineering to engineers so that they could understand me. And of course, this young lady, my personal assistant, didn't have a lot of knowledge of that. So I realized quite quickly that I had to start learning Thai pretty quick, very fast. But something interesting happened that showed me that if I'm interested in something, I can remember it very easily when I'm learning a language. And this is what I'm talking about. What actually happened is every day I used to go out for lunch about 12 o'clock and come back about just after 1 o'clock. And I used to go to a local restaurant not far from the main office. Well, I've been going there in and out there for a couple of weeks, I suppose, and I was eating a sort of common chicken rice dish, etc., that I understood. But one day when I went in and I was sitting waiting for my chicken and rice to come, I noticed this couple sitting at a table fairly close, and they brought in this magnificent looking golden fish. And I thought, oh God, that looks absolutely beautiful. But I had no idea how to ask for it. And I looked at the menu again, and there was lots of fish dishes on the menu. But I really wanted to try this fish. So I said, before I was leaving, I said to the waiter, I said, please, what was the name of that fish these people have, pointing at the table and the plate that they had? And he told me, oh, he understood right away. He said, pla samri det dio. Well, I now know that pla means fish. Samri is a type of fish, and det dio is a way that it's cooked. It actually stands for cooked in the day's sun. But you know, pla ri sam det dio. I remembered that instantly because I wanted to try it, and it was immediately implanted in my brain, and I never ever forgot it. And that's what I'm talking about. It's important to learn these things and get your active vocabulary going. So what do I mean by active vocabulary? Well, let me tell you about the passive vocabulary first. Passive vocabulary is that large amount of vocabulary that you are aware of and you do know roughly what it means. But if you're making the conversation or writing the paper, you will not use that vocabulary because you're not terribly confident with it, and you're not too sure how to use it in context. But vocabulary that you're interested in and that you've learned and how to use it is your active vocabulary. And unfortunately, your active vocabulary is always much less than your passive vocabulary. And that's not only for learners, that's the same for everybody, even your own languages. You will find that you have a large amount of passive vocabulary that, although you understand when you hear people talking and using it, you don't really include it in your own conversations, etc., because you're just not quite sure on the proper way to use it. So The best way to attack this learning English in context is to choose the vocabulary that you would like to be in your active vocabulary and that you want to be able to use. And that way you will find it much easier to learn. And just as I said in my first video, the best way to learn this is to put it on a flashcard with the meaning below the word. And then on the rear of it, write some sentences, write your own sentences in how you would use that in your daily life or in words that, in an aspect that you understand, and then you understand how that vocabulary is used. And that way you will learn it very quickly. Going through your flashcards fairly regularly, etc., they will go into your active memory very, very quickly, I assure you. I've seen it many, many times. I've used it many times with my students, and I've taught a lot of students who have managed to get high band scores in IELTS and high scores in TOEFL as well. So it does work, I can assure you. So that's the best way to do it, and use flashcards. I would also recommend maybe you look at some of these, because now we're in a much more technical world. Maybe have a look at some of these apps you get for your telephones that are flashcard apps, and see if there's one of them that suits you as well, because then you'll always have them with you. But please look at using flashcards and look at using this vocabulary I'm giving you in this series of videos. This is the second one, as I've said, and these are all vocabulary words that you can use in IELTS or TOEFL, and they'll be easily adapted, I assure you. So even if you only learn, there's 11 today, if you learn 6 or 7 of them and really got conversant in the use of them, conversant means you know how to use them, then it will do you in good stead. And follow the rest of my videos on learning vocabulary in context, because there's going to be about 60, 70 words that I think are invaluable for using an IELTS and TOEFL, and it would be good if you knew them. So anyway, let's get into the video and look at these words I've got for you today. So the first word we have today is analysis, which is a detailed examination of the elements or structure of something. So there's many times we can analyze something and come up with an analysis. So the example here is the analysis of the data showed a clear trend over time. Alternatively, after they completed analyzing the data, they identified a clear trend over time. A super example that you can use in various aspects in one of the language testing systems like IELTS or TOEFL. Next we have the word bias, which is a tendency to favor one thing over another. Many of us do have a bias towards various aspects of things that we like or we prefer over other things. So the sample here is: the journalist was accused of having a bias towards one political party. He was biased towards one political party. When you're learning these words also, learn how the variations that you can use on the words that are given, bias and biased, etc. So that you will get the full spectrum of the words that you're learning. Cohesive. The meaning is connected or united in a consistent and logical way. Sticking together, we're stuck together, we're cohesive. You can do the adverb is cohesively, they work cohesively together. Cohesiveness, the ability to stick together or join together. They're non-cohesive, the opposite, or uncohesive. So all good words to put into your active vocabulary. Define, to explain or give the meaning of a word or concept. Example, it is important to define key terms before beginning any discussion. defines definition. If we define something, we could give it a definition. So another excellent word for you to absorb. Elaborate. Elaborate. To elaborate. To expand or add detail to something, often by providing more information. The example, could you please elaborate on your answer a little bit more? Further, I would like to elaborate a little bit more on what I've written in this paper. Could you elaborate some more to me about what you've been saying here? So, just adding more detail or more information. So, generalize. Generalize, to draw a conclusion based on specific cases or information, and then applying it to a broader context. The example, you can't generalize about an entire group of people based on the actions of a few individuals. So we often say that it can often be dangerous to generalize by drawing conclusions on various data and then applying it to a larger commodity. For instance, maybe saying something like people who eat cheeseburgers become obese. So we're saying that everybody that eats cheeseburgers can become obese. That's a generalization that would be considered unfair. Very unfair, actually, because I like a cheeseburger and I'm far from obese. Inference. A conclusion reached based on evidence or reasoning. The example, based on her body language, I made the inference that she was upset about something. Of course, you can infer something yourself. You can infer that something has happened and then somebody else says, well, the inference is. Infer, inference, excellent possibilities for using that in both the speaking and the writing aspects of IELTS. For example, he inferred, she inferred, they give an inference, etc. Hypothesis. Say that again. Hypothesis. You try it. Hypothesis. A proposed explanation for a phenomenon often based on limited evidence. So an example, the scientists tested their hypothesis through a series of experiments. So that's hypothesis. A simple but effective word, logic. Logic. The reasoning or method used to reach a conclusion or solve a problem. I'm sure we're all capable of logical thinking at times, and I'm sure this is a word that most people will already know. But it's nice to be able to use it effectively and adapt it into various situations. Logic, logical. Paradox. So what exactly is a paradox? Well, it's a statement or situation that contradicts itself or appears to be logically inconsistent. For example, in a strange paradox, the medicine made Harry sick before it cured him. Paradoxically speaking, everyone is born equal, but some people are born more equal than others. Obviously, you can't be more equal than equal, so it's another paradox. So there you go, people. A few exceptional pieces of vocabulary there that you will be able to take on board, learn, know how to use, and in your coming up language test, if you're having one, you'll be able to use them and impress the examiners. I can assure you that would be the case. So look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye for now, and thank you again for watching. Take care.